afternoon, Mr. Ryan. How are you? How is your... It's been a while. We've been late. This is a late episode.
Good evening.
Busy.
I'm okay.
Yeah? Tell us a little bit about your week. Fill us in on what it's like to be Johnny Ryan.
I don't even remember my week. That's how great it is.
Oh, wow. Do you know what day it is today?
It's Wednesday in my country.
Yeah, okay. So at least you know what day it is.
Uh-huh.
I'd struggle to remember what day it is most of the time. I went to Hooters last night. I had 2 rum and cokes, and then I left. I didn't even drink beer.
By yourself?
No, I went to meet a friend of mine. We were initially going to go to this Mexican restaurant, but then they were closed, like for no reason. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, "Fuck! Well, I don't really want to eat a meal." I went there. I went to that Mexican restaurant just to eat. They have oysters, so I wanted to just eat 3 oysters and just drink 2 cocktails. So then I went to Hooters instead, and I ate just fried pickles, and then had 2 rum and cokes.
No oysters at Hooters?
They do have oysters at Hooters, but I would never get them at Hooters because you don't get oysters at a place that doesn't sort of specialize in them, because they're just otherwise they're just sitting in the fridge, just smelling like the fridge, Oysters are a bad oyster is a good way to just ruin your fucking week, That's a good 2 days of feeling pretty bad.
Yeah. What's Taiwan Hooters like?
What's funny is because there's no tipping in Taiwan. There's actually no reason at all why you would be a waitress at Hooters, other than just to debase yourself, because it's not like you get tipped. Mm-hmm. There's no tipping in most of Asia.
There's no waiters or waitresses at Hooters?
No. It's fully staffed with girls in Hooters outfits with their tits hanging out and the bottom of their ass hanging out. Yeah. But they just do it. They just do it for
fine.
The reason of they just want to do that. They're not doing it to make money, which is completely baffling to me.
Huh.
I mean, I don't know how to make sense of it, but they're definitely not if you go to a Hooters in Canada or in the U.S., the girls are definitely trying to get your tip.
Sure.
Right. And they're not really doing that in Taiwan, although once in a while you will get kind of someone just trying to be cute or something. But I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe it's just coming from
What's the male equivalent of Hooters in Taiwan?
It's called scrotes.
Scroters?
Scroters, yeah. And it's just guys with just super low-hanging balls.
With their testicles hanging over their shorts.
with their testicles just hanging through the fly. Yeah. So today is a special episode because we don't know what the hell to talk about. So I guess we're talking about Olaf Ittenbach and DARD divorce, or as I like to call it, TARD divorce.
Re-DARD divorce.
Re-DARD divorce.
Redarded.
Now, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit just about because you actually are a lot more familiar. I only found out about Olaf Ittenbach maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It was a total blind spot for me and I'm a horror guy, but I was just I don't know, some guy on some guy was interviewing me and I looked like a complete imbecile because he's like, "Oh yeah, so it's kind of like Olaf Ittenbach, right?" And I'm just like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "You don't know what that is?" and I was like, "What?" And
poser.
Yeah, exactly. So then I looked into it and I was like, "Well, these aren't good films, come on, give me they're not. These aren't. There's definitely value in them, but they're in terms of what makes a film good. These are not good films. Give me a goddamn break." But maybe you can elaborate upon that. There are films like we talked about Night Killer and Claudio Fragasso films, and kind of those are, you can see how there's a little bit of a similarity because the dialogue is delivered in a very bizarre way, and there's sort of a certain level of cheapness, and they're horror films. But
Fragasso is almost like Fellini compared to Ittenbach.
You're right. Okay, so but just you understand the comparison though. Like they're kind of bizarre.
No, there definitely was even. I don't think it was shot on video, but DARD Divorce. It feels like a shot on video. 80s, 90s gore movie.
Yeah, but I mean, but even so even something like Redneck Zombies, like
No.
do you remember that? Have you never seen that?
No.
Oh, you got to watch that. That's actually one of the best, if not the best, shot on video film.
Okay.
It's ambitious. It's gory. It's funny. That's the biggest advantage of it, is that it's actually genuinely very funny. This got a very funny script.
From what year is it from?
I want to say 88, maybe. Let me look it up. Redneck Zombies.
Perfect time.
87 actually.
Okay.
And yeah, it's just such a. I used to be obsessed with that movie. Like it's such a delight, to watch. So full of creativity, like the kind of creativity that I appreciate.
I'm sure, I've seen somebody post clips of it online, and I just didn't know what the fuck it was.
There's a lot of like shitty sort of like not trauma movies, but movies that trauma distributed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, Rabid Grannies,
right? Mother's Day,
or
that other one that Father's Day. I think we didn't talk about that on here, or did we? I don't remember, but we did talk about it. And yeah, sort of like really, really elaborate violence and very little attention paid to character or story plot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There is sort of something about Father's Day. Like I actually
Not
do.
really.
Did you ever see The Editor? Did you ever see like that film called The Editor that was done by those same guys? I think that's a very funny movie. That's like kind of a parody of a giallo film. It's fucking stupid at some points, but like I think that most of it hits. But anyways, back to Ittenbach.
But Father's Day, I kind of came across in the same way that I came across DARD Divorce, one of these horror Instagram feeds that I follow. Like, we just posted some clips, and there was some really gnarly gore and violence, and I'm always I'm easily lured in by that, especially when it's completely batshit, extreme, crazy shit. And and it's also something that I've never heard of. I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it. Like it's just sort of like, oh, where'd this come from? And so it piques my curiosity, and then I'm like, okay, let me watch it and see what's going on here. And I'm always disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. Completely batshit insane. The review of The Monkey by the review done by Stephen King. This movie is batshit insane.
I always remember the little clip he did for
Maximum Overdrive.
Maximum Overdrive says, "I'm gonna scare the hell out of you," and he's all intense.
I'm gonna scare
shit.
the hell out of you.
And
my name is Stephen King. I wrote The Shining.
It's literally the most unscary movie ever made.
It's the real DARD Divorce.
I mean, I can imagine. I can see people enjoying it for other reasons, like it's quirky, it's campy, it's whatever, funny, it's silly, but that it's scary. Give me a break.
No, it's definitely not scary. But that's just like the guy's got to fucking put out an ad for the thing. I actually think that the Maximum Overdrive is like pretty consistently inventive, and I actually reference it at least once in The Sadness.
Well, I'm going to send you a clip. I'm going to send you a clip from an episode of the Benny Hill Show from about like 10 years before, where he did a comedy skit of basically the same subject. of like machines coming to life and attacking people. And it's scarier than than the Stephen King movie.
Yeah, well, that's not what I find to be inventive and let's say inspiring about Maximum Overdrive isn't about the core concept. It's more just about
Lisa
the
Simpson's
filmmaking
performance.
Yeah, Lisa, like, I gotta go pee. Can I watch? No, you cannot watch me pee. The fucking like the part where that little boy is going through the neighborhood and he's looking at all the people dead. Like it's an aftermath scene of just him looking around and seeing people dead. And they have that AC/DC. What are you doing? Are you taking off your clothes?
Yes, I want to be.
Oh wow!
I thought I was on my OnlyFans.
Yeah, Johnny is now disrobing. He's down to his underoos right now.
My knickers.
We're looking at the big swastika tattoo on his chest.
My new Kanye T-shirt.
Yeah, he went above and beyond, and he got the Kanye, what I like to call the Kanye symbol, tattooed on his chest. But yeah, so like just there's that kid riding around the neighborhood, and it's showing the different, the fucking different aftermaths of different deaths, and it kind of. You're like, oh, that guy must have died that way. Oh, that guy must have died that way. But then, like, also over top of it, they have like the radio, like the radio kind of guy just being like, we're getting reports of machines coming to life and all this stuff, and it's kind of just this good scene that like world builds and fills you in on kind of the situation. And I stole that for the sadness, and that's one thing. That's what I mean when I say this thing is inventive. Like that's a great way to just get across kind of like the scope of the situation rather than there's other ways you could do it, but that way that they chose to do it I thought was very clever and very, to be frank, very cheap and affordable when you're thinking in terms of like a low budget movie. We should just talk about Maximo. Actually, no. Let's talk about DARD Divorce. First of all, the thing's called DARD Divorce. Like it's the worst title in the world.
I initially was like, oh, the lady's name must be Dard, or like the family's name must be Dard.
Yeah, like, common German name, Dard.
Yeah, this is Heinz or Hans Dard, and this is his wife Gertrude Dard, and they're getting a divorce. But that's not what's going on. It's supposed to have this other like really profound meaning. It means pain in like Persian or something. Even though there's
it's like a curse.
Even though there's the fact that there is a guy who in the movie who is supposed to be Persian, but his role in the film is so minor. It just feels it feels stupid.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised that something in DARD Divorce feels stupid.
Like that somebody that she would. Well, I guess I'm getting ahead. Maybe we should start at the beginning.
Okay, stop. But I already fucked this all up. What we need to do is we need to introduce the listeners who aren't familiar with the Olaf Ittenbach oeuvre.
Okay.
To like, why don't you just tell them kind of what this guy's all about? It probably won't take very long.
Well, I first became aware of him. He did a shot on video movie back in the 80s called Burning Moon, and very, very thin on plot, but the level of gore was very impressive. Just amazing. I mean, for the time, for just being like probably just some shit kicker in Germany, putting this together on his own, very impressive gore and blood and violent effects. The movie itself is, it just is a vehicle to show off his amazing abilities of creating gore effects out of, probably a budget of $10.
Yeah, that's something that should be stated is that like, the what you really get out of Olaf Ittenbach movies aren't the best gore scenes, but they're very clearly done on a fantastically small budget. So you kind of get the sense of just this guy who's just, really, really good at working with pretty much nothing.
And fairly inventive.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe not, like you like point to something like Terrifier 2. The gore in that is very impressive, but they clearly had probably a little bit bigger of a budget to play around with. In Burning Moon,
not much, but definitely more. Burning Moon like it was.
But also this is like 25 years ago as well, or who knows when, 30. So yeah, small budget, very inventive. The scene where like the guy gets cut in half and they pull him apart is really impressive. I remember I saw it for the first time at the Cine Family in Los Angeles. And I was just like blown away, like, wow, this is, and I only saw that. I didn't see the whole film. I just watched that. They just showed that segment of like the guy he tied to the table and he's being cut up and tortured and ripped apart. And I was just like, wow, what is this? Where is this from? It's really impressive. It's really great.
Right.
And that's pretty much the only thing I've ever seen from him up until last night when I watched DARD Divorce.
I'm gonna laugh every time we say DARD Divorce. There's some. Did you ever see that movie called Adam Chaplin?
No, but I'm curious. Like that's another one that I've seen posted, and it's intrigued me on the level of violence that it seems to have. But I haven't watched it yet. Yeah. Haven't been able to track it down.
I can get it for you. There's also this other kind of group that I cannot find it right now. There's like Olaf Ittenbach, then there's sort of the Italian equivalent, which is Emmanuel De Santi, which is the Adam Chaplin guy. Okay. And then there's this other group that I can't remember what they're called. Like they're called like, oh fuck, they're called like Goronaut. They recently did a movie that was called like Fuck Burger. Like it's about like a burger place that's all gory, and I can't remember if down in the comments below to our two listeners, if you guys can figure out which movie I'm talking about. But there's sort of there's a couple outfits like that are below the radar in terms of Hollywood and kind of like real productions, but they're also kind of like above the multitude of shit kickers who are just kind of making movies on their own time between their jobs as stock boy at Walmart. They're kind of in that nice sort of Olaf Ittenbach zone,
working in the kitchen at Hooters.
Working in the kitchen at Hooters, thinking all those girls are your girlfriends and getting jealous of the guys when they hit on them. But yeah, so that's a pretty good sort of breakdown. Like Olaf Ittenbach's just this sort of guy who makes kind of these scrappy gore movies. He did one that I liked. The one that I always think of is called Beyond the Limits.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one.
Yeah, that one I like too. But something that will tie these all together too is the acting is always really bad, and the sort of the cinematography and like the choices of editing. You'll notice that in something like DARD Divorce, the editing, like there's a lot of like
fading in and out. Like I was just thinking of like when she's having the phone call with the cop, and it's just sort of like fading back and forth between the two.
Sometimes they just have two shots that are just on 50% opacity. Like one is solid beneath, and the other one on top is 50% opacity, and it's just like, this is not what's going on right now. Is not a normal thing to do in a film, and there's a lot of like funny like. See,
those things were the only things that I felt like made this feel not like, okay, this isn't shot on video. He's doing some film tricks.
No, I don't know about that. I think you could do that with a shot on video production. Like there's some stuff where like she's having like a memory or a dream, and they'll do like. Do you remember the part where she's going? I think it's a dream, and she's going through sort of like that weird like freezer kind of space, and then she encounters her kids, but they're dead and they've got blood on them, and she's like, ah, and then it goes to the kids, and they start like morphing all over the place, like all over the screen.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what does this represent? Like what this visual motif is describing what exactly? You know, like I think if you asked, you know, old Olaf, I'm not sure exactly what he would tell you, but I mean, he's pretty fucking prolific too. Like it's difficult. I really don't want to come across like I'm shitting on this guy. It probably sounds like I am. It probably sounds like we both are, but like,
not me.
But like I know you are. You're not admitting it.
I just praised the Burning Moon for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, but you said it was good just for the gore, but not good for like as an actual movie.
Well, no, but look, he was probably like what, 16 when he made that. So you know, I think that if you want to see like 80s, I think it's worth watching just because it's the gore. If you're interested in gory films, if you're interested in gore in films, you need to see this movie.
Sure. Okay, so I'm coming at it more from the place of like, you're not going to get what he does. You're not going to get from anyone else. Like he's doing something that only he does.
Right.
And that's maybe what I like the most about him is that, and he's prolific. He makes a lot of movies. He doesn't stop working, and even though the acting is frankly bad, and a lot of sort of the editing choices are questionable, and he, you know, he shoots a lot. Like, I mean, for example, DARD Divorce is all shot in his own house, and then they get a few shots in Christ, I had this written down.
San Francisco.
In San Francisco, also in Price Canyon in Nevada.
Okay.
But there's that whole so like just those scenes where there's like those mesas and stuff, like that she's walking through the desert early on in the film.
Mm-hmm.
For no reason, just because they were there. Uh-huh. Okay, get out and start walking around. I will film you. But the San Francisco part, I mean, they really milk like San Francisco Chinatown. It's, hey, look where we are, huh? Pretty good. It's not cheap to get here.
We made it.
We made it over here. But so like the point is that they're cheap films, but there's definitely like a lot of heart and a lot of effort. And I don't want to sound patronizing, but because like, you know, there's a lot of shit that you could watch that is just boring and sucks. Like I would definitely there's a movie that I want to mention that I is so fucking boring and I can't stand it, and it's new and it's made by a guy that I know, and I just don't want to say what the movie is, but like I would rather watch any Olaf Ittenbach movie in favor, like I would rather watch Olaf Ittenbach movie in favor of this guy's movie that just came out.
Was it The Brutalist?
No, it wasn't The Brutalist. It was the
Amelia
porno
Perez?
parody, the porno parody version of The Brutalist called The Noodleist.
What about...
The guy pulls out his noodle.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. He's nude.
I see.
He's a nude guy. No, it wasn't Amelia Perez. Amelia Perez is the more I think about it, the more I like it. The more I think that it's just like, that's a real fucking tard divorce right there. Should we talk about the goddamn tard divorce or what?
I'm trying to get to it. You keep sidetracking us with fucking bullshit about Amelia Perez and the Noodleist and...
Yeah, that's true. I'm ruining the show. Go ahead.
Right, so...
Natalie.
Who?
Natalie, our main character.
Oh,
our main character's
forgot her
Natalie.
name. But, okay, so the movie starts and she dumps... First of all, she's got a very heavy German accent. So I had a really difficult time understanding her.
You're like Donald Trump, where he needs like to have a translator for a guy with an Indian accent.
I can't understand what she's saying.
What's he saying? Yeah, okay. So Johnny had to turn the subtitles on.
So yeah, there was no subtitles on what I was watching, but so I just had to just go with it. But yeah, she was very difficult to understand, and she unloads an enormous amount of pointless information at us at the very top of the movie. We get her life story, we get her story of her parents, and she got married, and then she got a couple of kids, and it was just like a lot of information at once. That was kind of both hard to follow and also kind of boring. So that also made it hard to follow. And then she has a lover that she talks about. And then she introduces us to her kids, and even though they live outside of San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
The kid, like I said, she has a German accent, and then I think both her children have thick German accents as well for some strange reason.
Yeah.
Even though the father, who she's getting a divorce from, is clearly American. He has an American accent.
Sure. And let me jump in. Like Natalie is a lawyer. She's like the breadwinner of the family, and
also a admitted alcoholic. She wakes up and she's already downing several glasses of whiskey. Jim Beam.
Yeah. Tim is the husband, and he's just like a fuck up. He's got a shitty job as like a short order cook. So like,
right, and we get a little view of him. We don't really. I mean, we're not 100% clear on like, other than what she's telling us at the top. We're not 100% clear of like what this relationship is, why they're getting a divorce, other than he's a fuck up. And
yeah, that is true. Like for a movie called DARD Divorce, there seems to be a lot more emphasis upon the DARD and less upon the divorce itself. Like we don't even really know why they're getting divorced.
I think I was looking forward to something that was a little bit more like a hyper violent Kramer versus Kramer or something, like these two
War of the Roses.
War of the Roses, like these two like people going through a divorce, and they're going at each other and taking the kids hostage and doing all sorts of like crazy, hiring hitmen or whatever. And that's not what we get. So it actually becomes like a weird sort of Hitchcock
like unreliable narrator kind of thing, where people are telling different stories and shit.
No, well, remember, actually there was a remake of this movie that I think was made with Jodie Foster on a plane. And I want to say it was called Flight Plan. But the original movie was called The Lady Vanishes. And it was like it took place on a train, and this woman on the train disappears, and then there's this like amateur sleuth woman who's trying to figure out like what happened to this lady, and everybody on the train is just like, we don't know what you're talking about. This lady was never on the train. And so she's got to like figure out like why there's this weird conspiracy to make sure nobody knows this lady was on the train and that she disappeared. And so it's like this kind of conspiracy thing, and this one person who's trying to like figure it out. And we kind of get a little of that here with like, I mean, I guess I'm jumping ahead a little with that, but when the at the beginning of the movie, the two kids, a daughter and the son, go to spend the weekend with dad, who's a bum, but this is his last weekend with the kids before she brings the hammer down with her whole legal, divorce decree. For some reason, I'm not really sure why he's getting this short shrift of the divorce. It's not really clear that he's like a bad parent or anything. She seems
that's the biggest issue. Like with this, there's no reason for us to really dislike, or there's not enough for us to make any kind of real judgment for ourselves about the divorce. Because
in a way, you kind of sympathize with the guy because you immediately see him working at this shitty restaurant, Eat at Joe's, and he's got a horrible Persian boss who's berating him and slapping him and spitting on him.
He's spitting on him a lot. There's a lot of spit from that Persian boss.
And so you do kind of sympathize with this guy, and so he's taking the kids for the weekend, and she, she's got a bald lover that she goes and visits. She talks to some attorney friend, and then I can't remember why, but then she kind of just randomly decides to give him a call and say like, "Hey, let's have dinner as a family together." And I don't really remember why she does that, but she makes this offer to him, and that's when she goes to Chinatown and she waits outside the restaurant for him, and he doesn't show up.
Right.
So, then she starts getting concerned, but not concerned enough to call the cops or anything at that point. So she goes home and she kind of goes about her business, and at some point, I can't remember if the dog disappears first. Like they have for whatever reason, they have an enormous cornfield behind their house, and the dog runs off into the cornfield, and something sinister happens to the dog. And then a little later, the husband shows up on her back porch and dies in her arms. Before he dies, he says some kind of cryptic shit about they have the kids and I'm sorry, and maybe a couple other fucking things I don't remember. But the kids are apparently have been kidnapped. But then she goes upstairs to call the police, and the police come. But sometime
hold on.
Oh, did I miss something?
Because she finds a like 8.5 by 11 piece of paper with the word DARD written on it. And then she calls up the police, and she's like, "Hello, officer. My children are gone. Yes, they've been in my house. They left a piece of paper with the word DARD written on it, written in blood. And my dog, he disappeared too. I heard him yelp." And then and it's kind of like, at that point you're kind of like, hold on, what does DARD mean? Like
right.
they don't explain it until later. It's just one of those funny things where.
But we have to make clear that the woman is like really. She's not a great actress.
Oh,
like
yeah.
she's very one note. She doesn't even look good. I mean, no, she doesn't look. She's not like ugly or nothing, but she's just sort of like a blah.
I'd say she's ugly.
Really?
Yeah, I'd say that she's just sort of like, she's just like a normal woman. She's not movie ugly. And another thing too is that like I would say that little act out that I did just now of her being on the phone is probably better than her performance in the film.
It's just very like she's very she's just sort of she just stays in this very calm tone the entire time. She doesn't really get excited, and even when she doesn't get excited, it feels fake.
Yeah.
But yeah, she just looks like a dumpy, boring looking woman that you wouldn't give a second look at if you were walking down the street, the street in the Strasse in Germany.
You would spit on her like a Persian boss,
like the Persian manager of Eat at Joe's.
Eat at Joe's. She calls a cop, and the cop comes over, and he's this black guy, and he's an American actor.
And he doesn't even look like a cop. He looks, and he's got like, it looks like he has like Alex or something tattooed on his fingers. And I'm just like, it's very cop-like.
Yeah. No, you are right. That's so funny. It's like they just found a guy, and he agreed to it, and he's the cop. And,
but he doesn't. They don't even have him dressing like a cop. He looks like he just like, I don't know. Like he looks like he's the local sports reporter or something, and even like dresses like him too. Like he's just like he's very like dressed down, like he doesn't wear a suit. It's just sort of like, okay, if you, like it's almost like filmmaking 101. Like if you just like you want somebody to look like a cop, just go slap a tie on him.
Yeah. That all said, I think that he probably is the best actor in the whole movie, and that's not saying a whole lot. But he really is like, like it just, grading on the curve. You're kind of like, oh my god, who's like, check out the Black Daniel Day-Lewis over here. He's fucking killing it. But
and so by the time she makes this phone call that like, hey, my husband just died on my back porch, she runs back downstairs, and he's gone.
Oh, okay.
And then and then the cops show up, and they're kind of like looking at each other like, this lady's nuts. Like, we're looking around, and this is what I'm talking about. Like the Hitchcock lady vanishes. Like, you call this and claim that there was a body here, and there's not only is there no body, there's no trace, there's no blood evidence, there's no. It's just like, we think you're nuts. And and then I think she also gives them a copy of the DARD paper to be examined in the laboratory.
Right. For the boys in forensic to take a look at.
They're going to take a look at the DARD, the piece of paper that says DARD on it.
Yeah. And then just later on, jumping ahead, she gets the phone call. It turns out that DARD is actually a Persian word that means like a pain, suffering. It's a word that's used as a curse. So it adds an element of ominousness. A little too late. Ominosity. Although it would have been better. It would have been better if they had the. Like before they start the movie, they had like, DARD, then colon, and then it's like, and then they tell us what it means or something, like just because, oh my god, it says DARD. It's pretty funny. Like it's impossible to watch that movie and not be confused by it. But let's sort of speed along a little bit. Let's just go ahead and say that we find out that the detective that comes in to kind of the black guy that we mentioned before, I think his name is Officer.
Giles or
no, it's I think it's Officer Phil Warren. I'm looking at the cast here, because
that's actually like a plot that becomes a plot point later with like, what's the guy's real name when another cop shows up.
Sure. And then we find out that he's actually crooked, and the husband's been involved in some sort of fucking drug related.
Well, we also, like, after that initial, like, when she calls the cops and, they're going to go take that piece of DARD paper to the laboratory, there's then, like, over the next, like, I guess 30 minutes, there's, like, we see various violent drug deals happening at the Eat at Joe's restaurant that that involve the husband. And we're not really sure which is the real one and which is just a theory and which is just sort of like somebody lying and saying, like, this is what happened. But
yeah, that's what I was saying before when I was saying, like, because I had not seen that Hitchcock movie you were talking about. But, like, there is a lot of, like, unreliable, maybe not unreliable narrator, but kind of like they depict the speculation. They kind of show, like, what's going through her mind.
Right.
So there's like a lot of scenes in the movie that don't actually happen. It's just kind of like what they thought happened, and then you find out what it really is later, kind of thing.
But like the level of detail, and this is sort of where, this is of course where Olaf shines, is every one of these scenes where, like, there's a massacre and, bullets are flying and heads are exploding and knives are chopping off people's faces and stabbing and killing. And it's just chaos. And one of those scenes is what I saw on that Instagram horror feed, and that's sort of what intrigued me. And it is pretty cool. It's cool when you watch it out of context. when you see it here, it just kind of adds to the does this really mean anything, or does it matter?
Right.
Anyway, so after I guess like the German lady, whatever her name is,
Natalie.
she gets a call, and that's when they have that whole dreamy phone exchange where like she's talking to the cop, and he's basically telling her like, yeah, sorry, we can't help you. We don't know what the fuck's going on. And actually DARD, that means does he tell her that DARD means divorce, or somebody?
On that, it was on that phone call that's what that information is passed.
And so she's kind of left like, well, I guess they can't help me. And then he does say like, well, I'm gonna assign an officer to your home to, watch you and make sure that you're okay. So that night, they send an officer to her house, and that officer actually turns out to be...
That's Phil Warren. That's the black guy that we mentioned before.
Okay.
So we're there now. And he turns out to be corrupt, and he's involved.
Well, he's not. He's not even a cop. Like he's like a pimp or something.
He's not a cop? I thought he was a cop. He was just corrupt. He's just like a cop, but he's got sort of shit going on the side. Well,
I thought like that's the main good actor cop from the beginning, the one who he uses the word skeptic when he talks about like how like I'm going to play skeptic here when I say that I don't believe your story about your husband dying on the back porch. And
I think me and you are disagreeing on who we think is the best actor of this film. I think it's the black cop, the one.
Well, there's two black cops.
Okay, I think it's the black cop that beats her up. That is
I see.
Yeah, that guy I think is better.
I actually thought both black cops were pretty good.
Okay, fair enough. Well, okay, so at least we've gotten to the bottom of that.
This other black cop is revealed to be like one of the drug dealer pimp people that he's claiming that her ex-husband stole his money and his cokes and wants him back.
Yeah, he says cokes.
I kept sort of like thinking like did he say cokes?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I've never heard anybody call it cokes.
Kind of cool. It's kind of cool to use that.
Yeah, I guess so. But he uses it a couple of times, so I'm like, okay, I heard that right. That was cokes. And so he kind of handcuffs her to her chair and kind of punches her in the face a couple times. And he's sort of like, where's your husband? He wants to know where the husband is. And he sort of spins a tale about how he had both of her children. And then we see a whole flashback scene with him in a real like scary room that looks like it's kind of out of Saw. And he pulls a chainsaw down out of the ceiling and he basically chops her son in half.
Right.
With the chainsaw.
Yeah. So he says the son's dead, the daughter's still alive, and then she's handcuffed to the chair, and then he starts to, lay out torture tools, and he's basically trying to intimidate her to find out where the husband is, and she doesn't know where the husband is, and then she manages to kind of get the jump on him and smash his head. She gets free. She smashes his head with a bottle and then stabs him in the neck, and so now. The black Daniel Day-Lewis is now dead on the ground.
So he's dead.
He's been murdered.
But now a new person comes on the scene.
Yep,
and
Daniel.
He actually seems at first very friendly. He helps her clean herself up. Helps because he actually that black cop like did he cut off one of her fingers
he cuts off one of her toes and one of her fingers.
So he cuts off a toe, he cuts off a finger, and so he kind of wipes her up, cleans her up, gives her some pain meds, and puts her to sleep. And then he goes about. There's at least 10 minutes of him stripping nude and cleaning up the mess. Like
yeah. And you see get a lot of.
Oh, good. You're getting very excited. I can tell by this.
No, it's just so funny because it's like I was just thinking about like I remember one time years ago I was working on like a short film or something, and I remember a guy that I was working with just being like, "We need to get some nudity in the next film we do," and I was like, "Huh?" And he was like, "Well, that's how you know that it's a real movie is when there's nudity in it." And I was just like, I guess, and then in this, I can't help but think that that's what Olaf Ittenbach was thinking when he did this scene. He's like, okay, we need a scene where a guy gets nude and cleans up sort of the mess of a murder, but like I really want to get a good look at his penis. I want everyone to really realize how nude this guy is,
Right.
So like you get a good look at his fucking unit, and then
from back and front.
Yeah, there's a lot of great shots of him kind of crouched over and just his balls like hanging fucking between his legs, like you see it from behind.
Like they're like his ass and then his balls are dangling, and he's like he's got the saw going and his balls are like waggling.
Johnny is mimicking the motion of his balls with his floppy hand.
With my limp wrist.
Right. So that scene goes on for like probably about 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's like a 10-minute scene of like devoted to this guy like sawing up that cop and putting him in a bag and draining the blood down the tub. There's probably like at least a minute of him taking his clothes off.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's getting undressed, but like this is all very likely in Olaf Ittenbach's home bathroom, like his master bathroom, like that's like has the door kind of adjoining the master bedroom and the bathroom, and there's like a like a little place where you'd put your shampoo and like your whatever, your soap and your fucking all your showering crap, and he's got like a conch shell there.
Okay.
And I just kept thinking, like, if I were that guy, that naked guy, I would move that conch shell. I would get rid of everything. I wouldn't have just sort of the little decorations still there. It just it didn't bother me at all. I just thought to myself, like, it just really stressed to me, like, how like just the level at which they were not taking this very seriously, like in terms of like making this like a good movie or thinking anything through. Mm-hmm. They're just kind of like, as long as his balls are out and we can see it and we can see them clearly.
They're not going to be looking at the shell. They're going to be looking at his balls.
Exactly. The audience, it's like that scene in Ed Wood or whatever, where it's like, oh, they're not going to, if the tombstone shakes, the audience is going to look at that. They're going to look at this. I'm thinking of the big picture. The big picture is his balls. But
so he cleans up the cop mess, and then finally when German lady wakes up, I'm assuming this is Olaf's wife or then wife. Is he still married?
I'll get back to you. Keep going.
So she wakes up and
it's Martina Ittenbach. So it's his wife.
And I'm not sure if those are his kids too, but probably because they're also German. Yeah.
I doubt it. I'm not seeing them. I don't see any more Ittenbachs on the cast here. Okay. But so she wakes up and guess what? Out of the frying pan into the fire.
So this guy, he reveals himself as he's a doctor, but also the cokes belong to him, and all that money that has been stolen belongs to him. And she needs to tell him right now where her ex-husband is and where all his cokes and money is. And of course, she's like, I have no idea. And he's also tied her to a chair. But this time she's sort of tied to a chair, but he's injected her limbs with some kind of
local anesthesia.
Local anesthesia, so she can't move her arms and legs because they have local anesthesia injected into them.
yeah. And and then he goes on to actually give like a pretty compelling speech about what he's going to do to her. He's going to let me recite. He's going to cut off her arms and her legs. He's going to cut off all her extremities, and then he's going to cut out her eyes, and then also remove her tongue and separate her vocal cords. and then bandage all her wounds and make sure that she's going to survive, and then drop her off at like a center for the disabled. Yeah.
And then
so the whole thing. Yeah.
He then reveals that, oh yeah, your lover, remember the lover? She had a lover.
Right.
Guess what? I kidnapped him, and I dressed up in sort of an S&M drag outfit with lipstick and makeup and stuff. And I twisted his foot around 180 degrees, and then I smashed his face in with a sledgehammer, all of which you see
in a flashback or in a flashback. Yeah.
And so we see all that. So we see this guy means business. He's not to be taken lightly.
He's not what you would call a paper tiger.
Right. So, so he's she again says, like, look, I don't know where my husband is. I don't know where your money is. I don't know where your cokes is. And he's like, no, I don't like that answer. So I guess you want me to start cutting your limbs off. So he then is about to begin the process, and I'm blanking on how far he gets with his with the process. He does something, like maybe punches her in the face a couple times or something.
Yeah.
He does something with her arm. Like he breaks her arm, so like the bone is coming out, but she can't really feel it because her arm is anesthetized.
Right.
But at some point, she's able to like headbutt him in the face, and
he hits her with he hits her with a hammer. He's breaking her bones with a hammer. Remember that?
Yes. That's okay. I remember now.
Yeah.
But at some point, she's able to headbutt him in the face, knocking him out. And she is able to crawl along the ground. And I think all this is, we should also say, I think all this is taking place in their basement of the house. So she's able to crawl on the ground, and just as he's like coming to and he's about to grab her and I don't know, kill her or something, she grabs this syringe off the ground that was one of his syringes for, torture syringes, and she stabs him in the eye with it. And then that's pretty much terminates the doctor. And then she's able to somehow, even though her arms and legs are all fucked up, she's able to somehow climb out of the basement, climb back upstairs, and call the police or something.
Yeah.
Or no. She gets a. Does she get a phone call from another dude?
She doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't call the police, but the phone starts to ring, and it's the fucking. It's the
other black
it's a cop. Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, I got your kids," and he releases the daughter. So the daughter shows up in the house, and then he's like, "Well, don't relax yet, because I got your son, and not only do I have your son, I have, look at this laser pointer I have at your daughter's head. I'm going to shoot her in the head if you don't tell me where your husband is or whatever."
Yeah.
And so I don't fucking remember what happens next. Somehow the and he says something on the phone. That's where he uses the keyword I'm a skeptic, or he uses the word skeptic, and then that makes her remember the first time she met this guy, and he used the word skeptic, and then we realize, like, oh, that's the cop from the beginning of the movie, because they both used the word skeptic. And then at some point, I don't know, like some point he shows up in the house with a ski mask on, and then she gets the jump on him and blows his brains out. And and then there's like a whole thing. There's like a whole thing with like the money is buried in the cornfield where the dog is buried. and like
Right.
somehow the boy, the youngest child, knows the code because the code is some nursery rhyme that the dad used to sing.
Yeah.
It's like this whole fucking elaborate thing. So she goes out there to go get the money I don't know. And then the husband eventually shows up and he reveals like this was his whole plan, and he didn't expect her to survive, but he would have like gotten away with all the money and the coke, and she would be dead, and she deserves all this because she's a fucking bitch.
Right.
And then the daughter suddenly appears. So I think we were led to believe she was dead, because I think the other cop, I think he actually sniped her during that initial phone call. It's all coming back to me.
Is it? Because like I've actually while you've been talking, I remember so little that I actually have put on the movie and I'm watching it right now to try to figure. And we're in the cornfield, and he's explaining the whole thing.
And so the daughter suddenly like, oh, she's alive, and she shoots dad, and dad's dead, and and then it's like a happy ending for mom and the kids.
What about the car explodes too, right? There's a part where like a car explodes.
Oh, that was all part of the whether or not like that was all part of the story of the dad and like what he did, like because like and we get so many versions of like his role in the drug deal and killing all those people in the car, and either like he blew up the car with the kids in them, or he took the kids out of the car and then blew up the car. So it's all like a lot of misleading information. So who even knows if the car was blown up or what?
Yeah, like that. You're right. Like that particular blowing up car scene is like, they do like 3 versions of it. Like
right.
Like three different outcomes, which is like that really is. I mean, you know, you got to keep this kind of stuff simple. You know, like this kind of film. You really need to focus on your strengths. You know, Olaf Ittenbach. There's a few really nice things that happen in this film. But I mean, like all this sort of misdirection and all this kind of, you know, this sort of twist, the twists and turns that you seem to be kind of insisting upon doing.
I think if you're making a movie and you do too much of that shit, it's like nothing matters. Like you just stop. Like your mind just shuts down, and you're just like, well, who cares?
Yeah,
like if you're just going to
not even.
Yeah, if you're just going to keep lying to me, then why do I fucking give a shit?
You can do that once, maybe twice in a film.
Right. Here it's done like at least 6 times.
Yeah.
or maybe more.
This film, this problem that we're talking about right now is actually a problem that I have with a lot of like Taiwanese thrillers. Actually, Korean. There's some Korean stuff that's like this too, where it's like the shit just twists and turns so much to the point where you're just like, you know, you're gilding the lily. You know,
right?
You keep it. You try to keep it simple and keep the audience engaged. It's almost like some people think that this is better storytelling. Like, you know, a story is only as good as how many twists and turns it has, and how many misdirects it has.
Some like Shaw Brothers movies, some of the, I guess they would be like the less good ones, kind of engage in this whole like there's so many like, oh, the person you thought was the good guy is the bad guy, but actually he's not a bad guy, he's good, but actually he's not bad, he's not good, he's bad. Like there's so like they just put on like twist on a twist on a twist until you're just like, who gives a fuck? Just fucking do kung fu each other.
Yeah, just fucking karate chop each other.
It's just like I think there's this idea that just like if you add just more twists and like people want that, or it's fun, or it keeps people on the edge of their seat. I think it's the opposite. People just get like tired.
I looked at some pictures of Martina Ittenbach just on Google Images, and actually there was a time when she was a hot lady. She's a quite fetching young lady, young filly.
Okay. In this movie, she's yeah. She
kind of looks like a garbage bag full of oatmeal.
That's pretty harsh, but she definitely past her prime. Let's say that.
Yeah, I don't really think she looks like a garbage bag full of oatmeal. She looks like a human being.
Full of oatmeal.
But, Hardy. Listen, Martina, if you're out there listening, I think that you're a beautiful woman. I really do. I should be so lucky as to be in your presence one of these days. So overall, what would you say you would give DARD Divorce?
I'm gonna give it 1.5.
I'll give it a 1, just an even 1.
The half is for some inventive, the Ittenbach gore that you're gonna get if you like that kind of stuff. It's here. It's not as, I don't think there's anything as good as, say, The Burning Moon.
The Burning Moon is as you said before, it's about 10 minutes long. That really helps the film.
But there's also like
10 minutes long.
There's like a heavy metal element to the movie that also kind of makes it it's like quaint, like it's sort of like a throwback to like those wonderful days of Iron Maiden and Megadeth and listening to the Scorpions and and all that shit and I could see like heading over to the local video store and picking up Burning Moon and throwing it on the old VCR.
All right. So Johnny's having a little nostalgic moment over here.
Right.
Thinking of the
good old days.
Back in the good old days.
Just watching some Burning Moon and combing your mullet in
the rumpus room with
listening to some Quiet Riot.
Yeah, on your hi-fi system. Anywho, okay, cool. So 1.5. That averages out to a 1.25 on the eggplant meter. I guess I got nothing really else to say. I mean, it's about an hour now. I think we can probably call it. That's an episode. That's your fucking episode, people. We'll be back next week. I think we should talk about. So we were going to talk about Betty Blue. Do you still want to talk about that? Were you enjoying that?
Yeah, I was like, when I've seen it before, but then when I saw it show up on my TV, and I was like, 3 hours. Well, I don't remember being 3 hours long. And then I looked it up, and I guess there's a director's cut that's 3 hours long.
Yeah, so that's the one I have.
So I think when I saw it back in, whatever it was, 89 or 90 or something, I probably saw the 2 hour cut.
Yeah.
So I was curious to see the extra hour of footage to see if that makes me change my mind about it.
Yeah.
My penis was hard from the 2 hour version. Imagine how hard it's going to get from the 3 hour version.
Oh man, maybe you might see some guy's balls from behind. But
I think you do actually.
Really? Oh, there you go. I was going to say that. So we will talk about Betty Blue. The reason why I brought it up is because it was recommended to me by this actress named Jessica Sula, who I talked to for this fucking thing that we're probably not going to end up shooting. But she was like, "Oh, you got to watch this movie. You haven't seen it?" And I was like, "No, I haven't."
Jessica Suleiman, isn't that Octomom?
Yeah. It's actually Octomom who brought it up. It's one of her. That's actually
one of Octomom's favorite films.
Well, that's what inspired her to becoming an Octomom in the first place. Getting so fucking just jammed full of cum. But anyways, that's it. That's our episode, everybody. Thanks. Next week we'll talk about Betty Blue, and at some point we'll probably talk about redneck zombies. That's a good thing. If you've made it this far into the episode, maybe you can write down which one you would rather hear us talk about. Redneck Zombies or Betty Blue. Everyone's going to say Redneck Zombies.
I don't trust the person that listens.
Okay, whichever one that you want us to listen to, write the opposite one.
Right.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.